about climate change. What did you expect?
I don't know. I guess I didn't realize that things could get so dangerous so fast.
Yeah, I always hear that climate change is bad, but now it feels real.
Well, why not, instead of talking about how doomed we are, we actually did something to fix it?
Man, we gotta get started.
Yeah, but how?
Here's something.
Hello, my name is Karen Dante, and I'm a Climate Change Fellow with the USDA Forest Service. I want to welcome each and every one of you across the country and thank you for tuning in to Climate Change Live. The Climate Change Live distance learning program is brought to you by 25 partners to provide you with information about climate change, what it is and what we're seeing now. We'll discuss what the potential impacts might be, what the potential solutions are, and what you can do to help. I'm joined by my two co-hosts.
Hi, I'm Troy, and I'm a student at Gwynn Park High School in Prince George's County, Maryland. I'm president of Gwynn Park Ecology Club, and I'm also an ambassador with the Alliance for Climate Education. You're joining us for a terrific assembly. Students at Hilton High School in Virginia are filling into their auditorium to hear a presentation about climate change.
And I'm Robert, and I'm a student at Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology in Fairfax County, Virginia. I'm president of the Environmental Impact Club there. My friend Sai Muramangalam is going to be giving the presentation.
Okay. Every once in a while during the presentation, we'll check back in with you. But Sai's about to get started, so let's tune in.
My name is Sai, and I work with ACE, the Alliance for Climate Education. We have educators around the country that go to high schools, and we talk to students about climate change and how to do something about it. In fact, ACE has presented to over 1 million students in just over 2 years. How many people have heard something about climate change before? Just wave your arms and wave them around like you just don't care. All right. So you might get a sense that this is a serious issue. But the last thing you want is another person talking about the world's problems. I mean, what's that going to do anyway? But here's the deal. The world's leading scientists say we don't have much time to start fixing the planet's climate. And if it's going to happen, you're the generation that's going to make it happen. So I'm going to break this down for you in a way you've never heard before. Yeah, we're going to talk about the science and the consequences of climate change, but we're also going to talk about the solutions and the positive future you all can create. People are always talking about the future like it's something that's just going to happen to us. But the truth is, we have the power to shape the future we want. So let's take a look at where the world is today and what we're going to do to change it. A while back, scientists discovered that the Earth has a sort of giant thermostat that controls the temperature of the planet. And these days, that thermostat is being jacked up, way up. Why? Well, it's all about greenhouse gases and fossil fuels. But when you really get down to it, it's about you and the choices you make. In 2013, you've inherited a country that's all about living large. Not like that. Most people are living large and don't even know it. What I mean is, we each take up a ton of space, but that isn't easy to see because we each cover just a little bit of ground. Your room and your stuff cover a little bit more. Count your home and, well, yeah, you take up some space. But then there's all that space around the world that you see that you never see. Like the space in Iowa it takes to grow your food, or in Brazil and China to get all the materials you need to make all your stuff, or in the Middle East to get all the fuel you need to drive around. And then there's all that space around the world it takes to dump your stuff when it turns into garbage. You see, everything you buy, use, and eventually throw away has to go somewhere, and you take up that space too. Whether you live in a mansion or a little apartment, whether your family is loaded or broke, if you're in the US right now, you're in a country that's living pretty large. Can you believe that the average American teenager uses about 21 football fields of the Earth's resources to live? I mean, you didn't choose to live this way. You were born into a world made by previous generations, so you kind of got stuck living large. Add to the fact that every day since you were like a year old, advertisers have been telling you that you could be cooler by having more, making you want to live as large as you can. So whether you like it or not, you're using up 21 football fields. What's that like? Line them up end to end and you run for over a mile down your football fields before you were done. Now multiply that by all the students at your school. You'd have to go from Woodbridge to Miami just to cover the ground this one school uses. There are thousands of schools in America, and colleges and offices and apartment buildings. There are over 300 million of us, each with our 21 football fields. Now there's only so much space on Earth, and we in the US aren't the only ones using it up. Some people are living almost as large as we are. It's true that in most countries, people are living a lot smaller, but in most places, the population is growing, and almost everyone is racing to live as large as they can because many have been convinced that living well means living like us, supersized. If everyone around the world used 21 football fields, we'd need like 5 planet Earths. As it is, we're already taking up a ton of the Earth's resources, while at the same time taking away what the Earth needs to clean and regenerate itself. We're grabbing habitat from thousands of species that are on the brink of extinction, and we're even crowding in on each other's need for space. But using all these resources is creating a more immediate and a more invisible problem. What most of us don't see is that living so large is pushing that giant planetary thermostat quickly towards way too hot. Why? Because it takes a lot of energy to live so large. To move ourselves around, to heat and cool our homes and buildings, and to create electricity, we burn fuel, a lot of fuel. And who knows what today's fuel of choice is? Fossil fuels! Fossil fuels, coal, oil, and natural gas. These fuels are made when living things die and decompose over millions of years. Now, fossil fuels have been pretty important. They've powered the Industrial Revolution, they've led to countless innovations, and they've improved our overall quality of life. But over the years, we've realized that there are some downsides to fossil fuels. Like they're underground, people go to great lengths to get them, blowing up mountaintops, polluting waterways, and even fighting to get their hands on them. And another problem is that they'll eventually run out. But the biggest problem is that when we burn fossil fuels to power our cars and trucks, we're turning up that thermostat in a major way. How come? Well, now we have to understand how that planetary thermostat works. In simple terms, the Earth's thermostat can be turned up or down by changing the balance of the gases and air in our atmosphere. Less than 1% of our atmosphere is made of special gases called greenhouse gases, which keep the planet warm. As the Earth gets warmed by the sun and puts off heat, these gases will trap it like that, holding heat near the surface that otherwise would have escaped into space. You gotta love those greenhouse gases, because without them, this place would be really cold. Let me hear you say, ice cold! Ice cold! When we have just the right mix of greenhouse gases, our planet's temperature stays just right for life as we know it. Just right means ice caps stay frozen, keeping sea level from rising and preserving homes for polar bears. Just right means that ocean currents continue to flow the way they have for thousands of years. Just right means that salmon can live in their cold water homes and gorillas can live in their warm, misty forests. It means Italians can grow olives, Americans can grow corn, and Brazilians can grow coffee. It means the seasons we've come to count on come year after year, just as they have throughout human history. Just right means that climate stays stable enough for plants, animals, and people to live where they live and do what they do. It's something we've all come to count on with our lives. Make a sudden change in climate, and plants, animals, and even cultures can get driven to extinction. But climate doesn't change too quickly as long as greenhouse gases in our atmosphere don't change too quickly.
Wow, that's really exciting stuff. Troy, what do you think so far?
Yeah, I think the first step in addressing climate change is to realize how many resources we're using. When you learn the facts, then you can start to make a difference.
The use of fossil fuels is really the key factor.
Lots of people know that we put gas in our cars, but maybe they don't know how much we use to make all of our stuff.
So true. Fossil fuels go into the production of so many things that it takes a great deal of imagination to picture life without it. It looks like Sai's about to get back to his presentation. Next, he's going to talk about the most important greenhouse gas, carbon dioxide.
Now, the most important greenhouse gas for controlling that giant thermostat is my man, my homie, carbon dioxide, or CO2. Scientists measure the amount of CO2 in parts per million, or ppm. 1 ppm may sound small, but small changes in CO2 can make a huge difference, as we'll see by taking a look at this planetary thermostat. Looking back in time, scientists have shown that when CO2 levels are lower, around 180 ppm, temperatures were cold like 20,000 years ago when the planet was in an ice age. Now when CO2 levels are higher, around 280 ppm, the world is pretty comfortable, not too different from what we're used to today. So guess what we make a ton of when we burn all those fossil fuels? CO2! CO2. When we burn fossil fuels in our cars and trucks to produce electricity and make our stuff, we spew literally tons of carbon dioxide into the air, which is trapping in all of that extra heat and then jacking up the dial on that thermostat. Now, the Earth has some very cool mechanisms for dealing with carbon dioxide. While certain things release CO2, like burning fossil fuels in our cars and trucks, other things will capture it and take it out of the atmosphere, like the plants and the trees, the oceans and the soils. These are called carbon sinks. But just like the Earth can only give each person so many football fields, it can only deal with so much carbon dioxide from each person. Because we're using so much energy from burning fossil fuels in our cars and trucks to produce electricity and make our stuff, we're spewing out tons of CO2. So much that the plants, trees, oceans, and other carbon sinks just can't keep up. Add to the fact that we're quickly losing our carbon sinks by cutting down our forests and warming up oceans. The Earth has never seen anything like this before. It's like we're conducting a giant lab experiment on ourselves. And while there's some uncertainty about where exactly this is headed, we do know where we've been. CO2 and temperature have always sort of, gone together. And for the past 800,000 years, they've gone up and down naturally, due mainly to changes in the Earth's orbit. But until we started burning fossil fuels to power the Industrial Revolution, CO2 hadn't gone above 300 ppm. And where is CO2 today? Call a number. 395, quickly headed towards 450 and projected to go even higher. Check this out. Compared to this entire time period, we're currently increasing CO2 levels 100 times faster than ever measured before. 100 times. That's a direct result of human behavior and a really big deal. Scientists expect that CO2 and temperature will continue to change together as they have throughout human history. And that means we're in for some serious changes to our climate. In fact, scientists think they understand the connection between CO2 and temperature only to a point. Jack up CO2 too high, too fast, and climate might change suddenly and unpredictably. Jacking up the temperature toward this point should be freaking people out, but it's happening quietly. Because, you see, it takes the CO2 we release several decades to warm the planet, and it can last in the atmosphere for over 100 years. So right now, what we're feeling is CO2 that's been around since the 1950s. And we didn't stop there. We changed hairstyles and added some more CO2 in the 60s. Added some more CO2 in the 70s, some more in the 80s, some more in the 90s. It's like a carbon party! And that's nothing compared to what we're doing today. Crazy, right? But CO2 isn't the only greenhouse gas. There are a handful of others. We can't forget about those farting cows. No, I'm serious. When cows fart and burp, which they do a lot, they put out a super greenhouse gas called methane, which is about 20 times as powerful as carbon dioxide at trapping heat. In fact, over 20% of all the methane we emit comes from livestock, farting and burping. All these greenhouse gases are jacking up that planetary thermostat. In fact, since you were born, we've had the Earth's 10 hottest years in recorded history. And this is melting ice caps and glaciers, affecting natural weather patterns, and starting to change life on Earth for billions of people. So here you are, just being a normal teenager, driving around, charging your phone, maybe eating a hamburger from a farting cow. And then suddenly, wham! You're in the middle of a planetary emergency. You didn't start it. You don't want it, but it's you who has to make the decision to stop it. And stopping it is not going to be easy, but you now have the one thing you need to get started: knowledge, a clear understanding of what's happening. You are the first generation that's ready to face the fact that living large means living with lots of energy. Lots of energy from fossil fuels means living with lots of CO2, and living with lots of CO2 means a climate that could get out of control. All right, so now you might be thinking, okay, Sai, I get it. I see what's happening. But what are the consequences to all this? What are the numbers? All right, well look, 97% of the world's climate scientists tell us that people are responsible for global warming, and every international science academy agrees. Even so, there are some folks, even a very few scientists, who say that they aren't convinced. They say that all this extra CO2 being dumped to the atmosphere won't lead to problems, or that we should just sit back, chill, and do nothing until we're 100% sure. Well, we could listen to those few folks and take the chance that nearly every climate scientist in the world is wrong. You might take that chance in a cartoon world where nobody ever really gets hurt. But this is the real world we're talking about, the only world we've got. So what does climate change look like in our world? Remember I said it's changing the lives of billions of people? Climate scientists say a warmer world is a riskier world. There's always a chance an extreme storm or heat wave will strike somewhere, but climate change is loading the dice. It'll increase the odds that we'll have more extreme rainfall, flooding, and heat waves that are stronger than ever. The world saw a lot of crazy weather in the past year.
A warmer world is a riskier world. Climate change is loading the dice, increasing the odds that we'll have more extreme weather. Human activity has already raised average temperature by about 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit. 1.5 degrees seems small, but climate change is like a fever. If your temperature went up 1.5 degrees to 100 degrees, you'd be stuck at home, sick. Back in the last ice age, it was only about 8 degrees colder than it is now. That put a mile of ice over much of North America. Scientists say if we do nothing, we're likely to raise global temperatures 7 degrees in this century. Because CO2 stays in the air for hundreds of years, what we do now will shape our world for generations to come. Without action, we will commit ourselves to hotter temperatures, sea level rise, and droughts that will make climate change the new normal. But for each one of these impacts of climate change, there's a story. And it's not just a story about polar bears. It's a story about us.
So, it's a story about us. Climate change is a difficult thing to observe because it's a long-term trend, as opposed to what weather we have today. But have you observed any changes that you think are a result of climate change?
A lot of my friends have allergies, and I've read that climate change is already making allergies worse. All this extra CO2 is increasing plant growth and really giving ragweed a boost with a longer growing season. So people with ragweed allergies may suffer more and longer. And allergies can lead to more serious things like asthma. So climate change can have serious health issues.
That's a very important point. There are many human health issues tied to climate change. You can find out more about this from our website. How about you, Robert?
Well, I live near Alexandria, Virginia, which is on the Potomac River, and the river there is affected by the tides of the Chesapeake Bay. So the city of Alexandria has seen increasingly frequent floods due to higher tides and to superstorms such as Hurricane Isabel. Occasionally, sandbags have to be placed around the city to prevent water from getting into buildings. The city of Alexandria has an energy and climate change action plan that addresses climate change impacts and is promoting sustainable practices.
So that's cool that the city is being proactive about addressing climate change. Well, let's hear from a couple of more students in different areas of the country who are also noticing the impacts of climate change.
You can't deny the fact that we are losing millions of acres and trees. The more pine beetle kill there is, the more dead trees there are. The more dead trees there are, the more logs there are to feed the fire. It was really sad for all of us. I had a few friends that lived up here. They lost their houses to their fires, they lost their pets, they lost everything. This is whatever's left of my friend Nikki's house. It's really sad because it's hard to believe that this is ever a house. It was definitely something that affected all of us in some way, changed people's lives forever. This is happening now, this is happening here, and this is real.
It's mostly about the winter coming late. In December 2008, it was the worst flood that I remember. You could see all of this water just flowing swiftly into the village that way. I heard these loud thumps and bumps on the side of the house. And I figured that was probably the ice sheets that broke apart from the river that are hitting the house. This year we lost about 8 feet, and a few weeks ago we lost another 5 feet. We have another 40 or so feet left until the bank there reaches our house. If it keeps moving at the same rate in the next few years, we might have to move our house to another location. It does scare me because we don't know if there'll be an ice pack or not in the future, and it's part of our everyday lives. Yeah, we're really dependent on the tundra or the ocean. The warmer temperatures could affect our way of life out here. It would be hard on our family, and not only my family, but all of the families in the community.
It's really important to think about how sea levels will be affected by climate change. A lot of the places and cities around the country that we know and love would be under a significant amount of water if we continue on the trajectory that we're on right now. About 5 years ago, scientists told us that within 100 years, the seawater would come up 33 inches. We need to start making some important decisions.
Some of the effects that the air pollution has is that I have a 7-year-old daughter who has suffered from lead poisoning. No one could tell me what was wrong with my child. And come to find out, there's a lot of correlations between food, air pollution, asthma that are affecting these kids. In Wyandotte County, we have a coal burning plant. And when you have a child that's constantly sick and you constantly run into Children's Mercy 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning who can't breathe, yeah, it's a horrible way to go. As a parent, you can't breathe for your child. You want to do everything for your child, but you can't breathe for your child, and it makes you helpless.
So students are seeing the effects of climate change from wildfires, sea level rise, and even the impacts on human health. So does that mean that we're all doomed? Nah, it can't be. Let's get back to Sai and see what he's got to say.
I know this is heavy stuff. I know that a lot of this is already happening around the world. And things will get much worse if we sit back and we do nothing. But the future is not written yet. Today, we're at a crossroads. And the good news is we have a choice. You can change this and avoid the worst of the problems. But it's going to take innovation, imagination. You see, the human imagination is the most powerful tool we have. Imagination got us to the moon. Imagination created the amazing technology that used to be science fiction. So the question is, what are you going to do with your imagination? Something like this?
As I unravel the deepness, examine the evidence, decipher the secrets. Come give me the realness. Time to let go the weakness. Dangerous systems, innocent victims. Both of these come make me jot down the killing.
You need optimists. When you have scientists that say we have 10 years to reverse global climate change, you have to wake up and be optimistic.
People might say we're too young to make a difference, but who sparked the civil rights movement? The women's rights movement, rock and roll, hip hop. These are things that never existed and never could have if young people hadn't dreamed up a better way to live.
My 9th grade science fair project was to convert my school's heating system from oil to wood chips.
I educate my peers on environmental justice and eco-sustainability.
How is the green economy going to provide jobs, and why is the green economy important for our environment as well?
We had a bicycle-powered prom. People must be on the bike to keep the music going.
It would be nice for once to wake up and look out my window and see a clear sky.
We have a movement. It's right there. You know, you can see it on the screen, and this is the American citizenry. These are the people like rising up and letting their leaders know what they need. This new model for activism was now possible because of this incredible new tool set that we have in the internet. People can now be connected nationwide to act locally in their communities and then have all that local action united into one synchronized, beautiful, harmonic voice.
We're going to adapt the members of the United States Congress. We will call them, we will write them, we'll come visit them again. We'll be waiting when they come home to their districts. We are not going anywhere.
All of them are do. All of them are try. Who them can't stop
It's a new foundation where we power our movements.
Everybody shine, be solar powered, speak your mind. That's wind power. Move your H2O, wave power, organize people power. We got that soul power. Everybody shine, be solar powered, speak your mind. That's wind power. Move your H2O, wave power, organize people power. We got that soul power. If you wind power, wave power, soul power, solar power.
We just found out we got commitments from over 90 nations. They're going to sign a global treaty on climate safety that's going to cap greenhouse gases forever.
Green jobs have actually lifted the communities up, and now people, instead of being on the streets or out of jobs, now people are actually working careers and jobs that are beneficial to the places that they live and the people that are living there. So people are now working on building green manufacturing, solar panels and windmills, and helping to build this new energy economy that's beneficial to everybody.
Talk this way, 'cause there just is no denying.
Here in DC and Virginia are taking on those projects as well. The first picture you're going to see is from Mountain View Alternative High School in Fairfax, Virginia. They've taken on our Unplugged competition to see which school can drop the most pounds of CO2 by cutting off the lights and unplugging the electronics. And they became one of the top schools in our DC region. The next picture is from Prince George's County in Maryland, the Ecology Club at Gwynn Park High School. Since they've started, they've refurbished the greenhouse that sits behind them, and those vegetables actually are used in the cafeteria, and they've expanded their recycling program into this national competition and became one of the top schools in the country. But students could go even bigger. I want you to check this out.
We're here because we saw an amazing ACE presentation 2 years ago that inspired us to go on this crazy journey. We figured that if we can do it, you can do it.
We decided to take this to other local schools through our organization, Smart Power Ed.
I'm
Manish.
I'm Daniela.
Hi, Daniela.
Hi, I'm Shreya.
Hey, Shreya, nice to see you.
So far, in less than 2 years, we've had 13% savings, about $23,000.
That's the story. We want every school in America benchmarking their energy performance and map it. Are you in? All right, deal is closed.
All right, let's hear it for Shreya and Daniela. See now, this gets me excited every time because for Shreya and Daniela, it started right here where you are all right now. They got started from an ACE presentation. And they got started by doing two things, and that's what I'm about to ask you to do right now. The first thing is to pick a dot. The next thing is to join your action team. So what's a dot? A dot means do one thing to help the environment and help cool the climate. You see, you don't have to live in a cave to lower your emissions. You can start by doing one simple action that's good for the planet and good for you. I mean, anyone can do one thing, right? It's a great way to get started, and then you start building green habits for life. Check out the ideas on the screen to help you get going. Carpooling to school, that's a very easy thing. How many people here have a cell phone, an Xbox, or PlayStation? Unplug the gadgets when you're done using them. It saves electricity. Buying things and using things that are already reused, or it's something that you can reuse, like a water bottle, or bringing your own bag when you go grocery shopping. Buying vintage clothes. These are very simple things that you can pick up and do right away. So what's your dot? Why wait? Because you could also text DOT to 30644. That's right, I got special permission to get your phones out and text DOT to 30644. Everybody, show me your phones. Show me your phones. Yes. Show me your phones. Teachers, you can nod your heads. All right. Let me see your phones. You got 30 seconds to text DOT to 30644. Ready, set, go. Okay, so once you text, you'll get a text back asking what your dot is. Just send the text back with your dot, and then you're in. It costs the same as standard text messaging rate. So if you're allowed to text, send the text. And you can opt out at any time. So it's DOT to 30644. DOT to 30644. Text back with your dot, or else it won't count. Got it? All right. We talked about a lot here. From CO2 to carbon sinks, from fossil fuels to farting cows, from living large to species extinction. We saw that using too much energy from burning fossil fuels creates too much CO2, and too much carbon dioxide is a world nobody wants. Beating climate change will be the greatest challenge of our lifetime, but also an incredible opportunity to innovate and reinvent how we live. It all comes down to you and the choices you're about to make. We all believe in you. So what will you choose? My name is Sai, and I'm here to help. Come and talk to me about how to get started and how ACE can help you and your school in the future. Thank you. All right.
Well, that was a lot to think about. And I hope everyone has a better understanding of the basics of climate change. It's great that so many students want to move from a gloom and doom attitude to action. And that's what it's going to take to address climate change.
Now we have another challenge, sort of a homework assignment.
We put together a list of opportunities to step up your game and to get even more engaged in being part of the climate change solution. You'll find it on the website. Everything from simple activities like recycling or planting a tree to things that are a bit more involved, like becoming a green school. These are activities gathered from our 25 Climate Change Live partners. So, we challenge you to make a commitment to get engaged and be part of the solution. Go to the website for more details and have a look at some of these ideas to get involved.
If you do sign up for something or want to tell us how you like this program, let us know by tweeting us or posting on Facebook.
We're going to have another Climate Change Live presentation next week on March 12th, and you can continue to join the conversation about climate change. We'll have climate change experts on the program to answer your questions from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Time. You'll be able to send in questions and join the discussion by Twitter, Facebook, or email.
We'll see what classrooms across the country are doing to help be a part of climate solution. And we'll show you how your actions make a real difference.
Climate Change Live also has a grant program, and we'd love to get a grant application from your class for an action project that addresses climate change solutions. Part of your grant application will be to let us know what actions your class is taking to be part of the climate change solution. Grant applications will be accepted after our next webcast on March 12th. Go to the website to find out more. One last thing, we'd like to know what you think about this program. Please go to the website and fill out the online evaluation. Thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to talking about climate change with your class
and hearing from you on Twitter
and Facebook.
Bye, everybody.
Warning, 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 warning to the world. Warning, warning, warning. Climate change is happening. We got to do something, no doubt. To the world, we're calling out. Hey. See the signs, they all reveal that global climate change is real. It's not a matter of when or how. Climate change is happening now. Sea levels are rising globally. We're losing our beaches constantly. Ooh, summers are hotter than they used to be. Stronger hurricanes more frequently. You see? Severe flooding, longer droughts. That's what climate change is all about. You know that? We have to do what we have to do. We've got to prepare. Start by being aware. Yo, a long time we are upset the ecology. No climate change is a reality. No strange weather changes all year round. We can't stop it, but we can slow it down. Small islands will feel it the most, especially the people them with the on the coast. We're losing the reefs and the beaches, flooded in the coastal communities. See the signs, yeah, yeah. They all reveal. This is what I said. That global climate change is real. I warn you. It's not a matter of when or how. Climate change is happening now. Watch this. They're burning the garbage everywhere. They're cutting down the trees. Pollution in the air. Only I can't breathe. I know, my love. To adapt to the ever-changing climate, some lifestyle changes we got to make. Emission of gases we have to reduce. Turn off the lights when they're not in use. So much of the warming changes we see are caused by human activity.
Chemicals, poisoning in the air,
Poison in the air.
greenhouse gases in the atmosphere.
Oh, yeah.
This is a warning.
Warning, 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 warning.
Climate change is happening. We've